I think a lot of different parts of crypto are going to impact the financial system, not just what Ripple is doing, not just what XRP is doing.
Hey everybody, it's Eddie from Tokyo. This is your cryptocurrency update from Japan, and that was a clip from the full-length video from Dubai. Dubai uploaded it just a few hours ago from the summit. You can find a copy of that in the description of this video. Be sure your portfolio is diverse, with crypto being used in the financial sector. Yes, number 1 and number 2 is Bitcoin and Ethereum. Have a listen to Jack McDonald, the CEO of Polysign. These are the go-to crypto for the institutional investor right now.
The asset that they buy is Bitcoin followed by ETH. Those are kind of considered the safe sort of plays. So when I'm talking to those type of investors, XRP is not, not the one that comes top of mind. That said, they follow where the market cap is.
All right, just one more clip, 60 seconds from that full-length interview.
What I think will be next, and certainly something Ripple thinks about, we started with enterprise-based cross-border payments. We talk about there being 4 kind of primitive pieces to blockchain-based technologies: liquidity, compliance, liquidity, compliance, custody, and tokenization. And Ripple really aspires to be more than just that kind of liquidity and cross-border payments. I think you can expect that we will expand into some of those other areas, either organically or through acquisition. And I think we'll look at, let's make acquisitions in markets that are friendly to these technologies. On the previous panel, you had representation from the UAE, you had representation from Switzerland. These are countries that are providing the clarity for entrepreneurs to invest, and that allows a company like Ripple that is larger. We have more than $1 billion of US dollars cash on our balance sheet. We want to deploy that to grow both organically, internally, but also inorganically through acquisition.
So the announcement that Ripple acquired the Metaco digital asset company from Switzerland makes sense, right? And I just want to point out that Mr. Kitao of SBI, they are the largest outside shareholder of Ripple, he often leads the way. You can see that the company Metaco was already serving Signum and Zodia. Now, it's interesting to know that in 2021, SBI invested an undisclosed 8-figure amount in Signum and also took a 51% stake in Zodia just this last February. And when somebody asked if the Metaco company was in competition with Polysign, you can see that David Schwartz replied that to some extent, yes, but they're not exact competitors because Polysign Custody is a custodian and Metaco is a technology provider. So the Ripple Polysign deal wasn't a good fit because Polysign's roadmap leads in a different direction from Ripple's. I want to get into this Hinman document now. It was It was back in October 2022 that Brad Garlinghouse said that the SEC wants you to think that it cares about disclosure, transparency, and clarity. Don't believe them. He went on to say that when the truth eventually comes out, the shamefulness of their behavior will shock you. And what he's talking about is what is in the Hinman documents. And we now know that there's another win for transparency. The unredacted Hinman emails will be publicly available soon. Brad Garlinghouse tweeted out yesterday that stay tuned as the lawyers work through the mechanics to make that happen. Above all else, Judge Torres can rule on summary judgment at any time. Sherry, which you can find at Cherry Empress 21 on Twitter, is extremely good when it comes to researching. So in regards to the unsealing order of the Hinman documents posted yesterday, James Filan brought to everyone's attention that there is this 21 days where the parties can file an objection to see the Hinman documents. This brings us to June 6th. And Sherry says it would be a wonderful turn of events if the SEC didn't fight the inevitable. Just because we have this waiting period doesn't mean that Judge Torres has to wait to rule on her summary judgment. If the SEC does file an objection, it's going to come in the form of a writ of mandamus. Attorney Fred Wispoli says that the summary judgment ruling is obviously written, maybe finished with some final touches left. I want to shift over to a quick clip that I made from a Twitter space. And before you listen, I think that Daniel here from Casino Coin made a really good point. Crypto bros want mass adoption, but fail to understand that normies won't cope well with, sorry, you lost your keys, we can't help you. He continues, I'm not using Ledger, and I'm not a fan of their solution, but I understand the intention. You can't have it both ways. When you listen, it'll make more sense. Here you go.
Let's say that you have a ledger right now and someone compromises it, which is not Ledger's fault, right? And then they opt in, they sign up the KYC without your knowledge, and then they reach out to these parties to try to recover it. They have the physical device. Is that not a new attack vector? What am I missing there?
Maybe somebody has your device and they've got in it. I'm not sure that's
But
what they would
there's
do.
a new attack vector where even if you didn't have the PIN or the private or the seed, you have the device and you could contact these three guys, and there's someone that has authority to give someone assets. That's what I'm getting at.
No, you would have to have the PIN or the private key.
It's a new attack vector to someone who opted in. So if your point is that,
all right, thank you. That was my point. It is a new attack vector that you're introducing with this software.
So of course, if you add KYC in between, it will add new attack vectors, because typically, well, there are ways to fool KYCs, and that's also why the insurance goes to 50K and not to 3 million or whatever, because of course, on that part, this definitely adds new attack vectors. So you have to think if you are comfortable with the KYC. If you are not comfortable with the KYC, I think you can. Well, there are more than two options, because we said there is option one, you don't use the service. Option two, you use the service. But I like, of course, as a builder, I like option 3, which is, well, you have all the way to build another service by yourself if you want.
An attack vector is a pathway or method used by a hacker to illegally access the network or a computer in an attempt to exploit system vulnerabilities. Now, this is what is happening with the Ledger changes. And also, you need to know that Ledger never made their software open source. So you really can't have a third party check it for vulnerabilities. And you never know if they had some sort of backdoor built in. So I've never used Ledger. I've never promoted it. When they had a leak of customer information, I really knew I would never use that company. Now, I get a lot of questions when I posted this clip on Twitter, what do I use? I have 4 wallets, Sum, MetaMask, Blockchain.com, and CoboVault. Now, I'm not recommending any of the ones that I use, but what I will recommend is that you stick to something that is open source, so that third parties have had a chance to check for the vulnerabilities, and you can pretty much know there is not a backdoor built in. I'm going to let Hugh Hendry take you out. This is another video clip that I found that was uploaded today. Oh gosh, the comments on Twitter were very controversial, because they're across the spectrum of people who agree and people who, of course, don't agree. I guess where I stand on this is that I am thankful that there are contrarian thinkers out there. I don't want to live in a bubble or a vacuum, and sometimes I think that there are certain narratives that get latched onto because it drives a lot of clicks and eyeballs, and it usually has to do with placing some sort of fear. Now, I am absolutely sure that the US dollar will someday see its end. That is 100% for sure. But I'm not sure it's going to happen as soon as everyone thinks it will. Anyway, have a listen to Hugh here, and you don't have to agree, but I think it's always good to get a different perspective. All right, everybody, do take care. Sayonara for now. Bye-bye.
De-dollarization.
Is profoundly silly. De-dollarization is a bluff. Okay, so it's coming to the fore because the Western financial media are very compliant. You know, the joy of our system is we entertain all brick brats. You can criticize us. We're good. We're robust. We can take it on. And our media love to kind of glorify. Because we're winning, the media wants to take us down. Fine, okay. But the intensity of the de-dollarization debate, and it's a debate sponsored by autocratic regimes overseas, and they're running out of dollars. So first and foremost, I have absolutely no issue. You want to use red cabbage. Forgive me, I call it red cabbage, but renminbi, okay? In terms of settlement. So I'm a Brazilian iron ore producer, and I'm going to send you over some iron ore. Yeah. And feel free, Lula, the Lulu president of Brazil, he said, yeah, we're going to accept red cabbage. I got no issue with that. No one has an issue with that. Go forth and multiply, okay? However, when the producer, when the commercial enterprise receives red cabbage, what are they going to do with it? Because remember, there's a closed capital account in China. You can't go and put it in a Chinese bank account. You can't go and buy Chinese treasury bills. You don't really want to go and buy Chinese property. They won't let you anyway. So what are you going to do about it? You're going to transfer it into dollars and you're going to hold it in T-bills. So, and the other thing is, yeah, Saudi Arabia and China are going to trade with red cabbage. Again, great guys. Have fun, okay? But let me tell you, the daily turnover in the crude oil financial futures is like 1,000 times the cash transactions. It's irrelevant.
Okay, let me throw this out. Maybe it's not an existing currency. Could it be a replacement currency? Perhaps a BRICS reserve currency backed by whatever?
What are you doing to me?
Balked at the BRICS, but they are rising in power.
Body?
Absolutely. Look at their GDP. And why can't you fathom a reality where they would have a reserve currency that would overtake the US dollar? I'm asking this
okay.
Sincerely.
So let me answer this, try and answer this without my verbiage. Okay, let's look at...
I feel like I'm in marriage counseling. This is... Okay.
God,
I feel like I'm talking to Max Kaiser.
God forbid. But yeah, I got problems. But anyway, we'll discuss later. So Russia and India, the in the BRICS, okay? Okay. Are you aware of what's been happening with the in the BRICS?
I know what's happening with the
Well, the Russians, right?
Right.
They have accumulated. So they're like, we ain't trading US dollars. And the Indians like, cool, and we're going to buy your filthy oil.
Right.
Okay. And we're going to pay you with our, if we had red cabbage, then the Indians would be curry dollars. I don't know, here you go. And we've reached a point now where I think the Russian central bank has about, not even a lot, maybe 50 billion. And they're like, we do not want any more Indian rupee. We want dollars. That is... Go on your computer and look up that story. That is current. That the Russians are no longer accepting Indian rupees. Okay? So that's within the BRICS. They're already rejecting it. And again, let's review. China. China's the largest. It's 15% of global GDP, 17% of global GDP. India's 2%. Russia was 2, but it's sliding lower, right? Brazil, less than 1%. What am I missing? BRICS, they're not that big. It's BRICS or China.
South Africa.
South Africa's irrelevant. Sadly, again, political leadership. BRICS or China.
Basically. Okay, I agree with that.
Now, again, you can only have a reserve currency. A reserve currency is not for settlement. They are free to settle without US dollars. But again, within Russia and India, the Russians are pulling back and they're saying, we will not accept any more rupees, okay? But they're free to do that. But for a reserve currency, you have to have an open capital account because you've got to take the cash from the settlement and own things, like put it on deposit somewhere, and you can't do that. So BRICS can have an attempt at a reserve currency if China is willing to open its current account. And that's the thing they'll never do. the Communist Party will never do it because it would be relinquishing power, potentially relinquishing power.
Yeah, but for a greater good.
They're not in it. The only good is the perpetuity of the control of the Chinese Communist Party. Period.